We're back again, and it's positively Pecos this week on the Indie Bar Report podcast. All right, we're back in episode number 377 of the Indie Bar Report podcast, the show which is versioning a new co-host leader, as there is someone that's knocking on the door, but we never introduce his name.
Knock, knock, baby. Kick on that Mac Miller. You know what it is.
Some crazy-ass kid's going to knock up on my door?
God, man. You don't know the Mac Miller spiral this just sent me down. It's going to be a long weekend for Jackie, baby.
This thing, Mac Miller's throwing a concert
aimlessly.
And now Mac Miller's throwing a concert for another famous white boy, Kyle Busch.
Oh, man.
There go your vibes, bitch.
How good was Swimming, though? What an album.
So I bet everyone's saying, wow, it's the beginning of June. We have over a month of Atlantic League ball to talk about a month of everybody else's. They're probably going to talk a lot of ball this week. Guess what? You're wrong, because we're going to talk about two managers getting fired. Then we have an interview for you, and then we're going to discuss the interview, because it's very interesting, because we have Pecos League discussion here, which is a thing that, frankly, I personally never thought would be on my show, but now it's here.
Since the first, I've really come full circle here, by the way, because I said it pre-recording, or maybe even on the. I think I said it in the interview that my first exposure to this show, when I first started covering indie ball as ALPB Roundup, was the episode where you were talking to, I believe you were talking to Andrew Dunn, right?
No, I never had him on. Just still an open invite, Andrew.
That's right. Still open invite. Dude, that would actually be fascinating. I mean, here's my problem. The problem is, so I think this interview does a good job of, and I don't know if I'm interviewing it or not, but I'm just getting a thought out of my head. I think it gives a good job.
Before you do that, just one important thing I got to toss in. Just going to step right over you, because it is my show. We talked to the Trinidad Triggers owner, general manager, chief of operations, I guess is the best way of describing this. Kim Schultz. A very interesting interview, very fascinating interview. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and continue to talk about this, and we'll just go right into the interview from there. So intro it for us, please. Thank you.
It gives a well-rounded look at the highs and lows of running a Pecos League team. I know the people who overinflate the Pecos League are like, it's professional baseball competing with the Pioneer League. I think, let's be real. Let's calm down on that. The people who undersell it are, it's adult league baseball. I think it is. I think clearly with this interview, it's got all the challenges and similarities of professional baseball, but with like an adult baseball league twist of like managers leaving and taking teams of guys. Like we see that other places. Like we see that in indie ball. I mean, PJ Phillips, for one, like we've talked about him just bringing dudes place to play, bringing in offense with them here and there. There's a ton of examples of it, right? But I mean, some of the information about just, so-and-so, they just had falling out. They left. They took people with them. They went rogue. You're like, okay, you got it. They're wearing Pecos League jerseys and playing teams, playing scrimmages, and you're like, they're not my guys. That's wild to me. On the other side, though, it's a lot of the same similarities of things we hear from every GM that we have on the pod. It's, being in it to win it. It's, the struggle to find pitchers, less is more, the struggle for consistent officiating and umpiring in every town, housing issues, mistakes being overcome as a GM, I think it's, even the mentality that we talk about a lot, and honestly, less people that come on here do, of like rising tides, raising all ships. Like there was a good bit of that too with the future vision on the league. So yeah, it was really interesting, but it got me thinking, here's the problem. Here's my issue in life, right? I can't complete a damn project ever. We know that. We've been over it. But while I'm listening to this, I'm like, I would love to do a deep dive Pecos League video and just start hitting markets up, just like getting out there. I don't care. I hate my job, dude. I'll leave that in a second to burn money and go travel to Pecos League spots. And this is the issue. This is why League manager in training. Dude, in my head, I was like, I probably would make the same amount. Suck it, Boss Cobbs. I'm out of there. That's a good joke for the 15 people who are in Boss Cobbs markets. Todd?
Well, I would wholeheartedly endorse you doing this. I will just say here, we would like the following projects first. The Frontier League tryout one.
Yeah,
that's big.
fair.
People inside the league are inquiring as to when that's going up. We also would like the Lincoln and Apollos video. That would be great.
Yep, fair.
That one would be one we're loving. The murder mystery is also something of note. We'd like that.
Murder mystery is true crime, but yes.
And then the other one is just some of the other things you promised first.
Yeah, a lot of half-started projects. I am who I am.
We are who we are. What's this? Early 10s EDM. So yeah, that's a great intro. We'll just toss it right to the interview now. Here's our discussion with Trinidad Triggers General Manager and owner, Kim Schultz. We're back with another edition of our long-running interview series, and this week we take a look to the Wild West of Independent League Baseball. This week we head out to take a look at the Pecos League, and specifically the Trinidad Triggers of the Pecos League, and we're going to welcome Kim Schultz, the owner and GM of said team, to the program. Kim, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Just we're on Highway 385, headed to Garden City for one game there before we head to North Platte, Nebraska.
Hey, so you get a nice little fun way to kill time on the way up to the road and join the oldest and noblest of traditions, which is piling in for a short series, I guess, to play some ball.
We just want to get up there and get a game in with Garden because, Garden's ultimately everybody's rival. And because we get a little manhandled on that field. Every team does when we go to Garden City. So that's why Mama Kay's on her way. I'll be present for this one. I've got a new manager, so
okay.
Oh yeah,
sure everything goes as planned.
He's got Pecos experience though. He'll be.
Oh yeah,
right.
No,
not dealing with a rookie.
That's my Mooch. I tell him, Mooch is just here for Purdy. He's our eye candy. No, he's awesome.
I mean, it's off to a good start though. You're 4-0 this season, so far looking like a GM who knows exactly what she wants to do with the manager role. So there you go, hot start.
And it would have been even better if we hadn't been rained out in Blackwell. We have 1.1 game in, and we had a 4-game series that we were supposed to play. We could be sitting at 7-0 if we. That's so we'll have to make up some games, but really, this team's hot.
Yeah.
Definitely is. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of lump a larger question to start here, because I think it's just important, because obviously we mainly deal with and I hate the term partner league, but as I've been instructed, I have to use that term. So people are more familiar with, American, Atlantic, Frontier, those teams. So maybe just take a second to just kind of brief us on what the Pecos really is and how widespread they are. I know I'm only generally familiar with it. So I'm sure there's plenty of folk that are listening that are interested but don't really know the full background on it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely indie ball. It grew out of New Mexico, and right now I want to say we're running with 14 teams. He dropped a couple teams off, and I tell him, less is more, Andrew. Less is more. It really is, because there's only so many pitchers out there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But
someone told the Frontier that.
But it's incredible that I'm at 15 years. The league itself is at 17, I want to say now. And just the stories, the teams, we go from California, to furthest destination, I guess it's Texas now. We were in Missouri.
Wow.
And the Pacific side, they start 2 weeks before we do.
Okay.
And, we do meet for a championship. The championship used to be just the mountainside, obviously. And, it's a they're two completely different animals. Most of the teams in California are in the Bay Area, so they don't have to travel real far, and they don't have to pay for hotels or anything of that nature. And going to Bakersfield, it's like it's a 3-hour drive, and it's like going to hell because nobody wants to go. But Bill Rogan's over there, and he's doing a good job. I love Bill, and every team has to sustain itself. The league does not support the teams financially, and they have to sustain. And when they don't, it becomes a serious problem when the audience is diminished or the fields aren't being taken care of, one thing or another. Describing the Pecos League, I mean, you have 14 different variables based upon how that city is operating, and they're all kind of little different animals. But the funny thing about the Pecos League, everybody will speculate who's good or what team's going to do what, but you never know this league is going to happen. I mean, you really don't. There could be a lot of surprises. Things can happen, the variables can change. I've been working really hard on having consistency in officiating throughout the league. I want it to look the same in Alpine as it does in Trinidad to North Platte, Blackwell, everybody. And that's a big issue. Yeah. And so we've come a long way with that. The hometown type situation, we've really tried to get away from that and bring in league umpires, just to keep that, no pun intended, but the playing field even.
So I picked up on a couple of things already that, maybe aren't surprises to me, maybe are surprises to me because I'm, I follow you guys a little bit more. I think it's funny that, talking to most people around indie ball and professional baseball, the Pecos League is seen as like another, there's the indie ball and then there's the Pecos. And sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But I was struck by, just in a little bit in our conversation before recording and just now, you said you're in it to win it. There's only so many pitchers out there. Less is more, and you want consistent officiating, which is something I've heard out of every single other indie league. So I think it's interesting that, really? The goals are, the goal is the same. Now, I say that to say, when I talk to GMs from other leagues, if we have 10 GMs, Nick will tell you, if we have 10 GMs on this podcast, we're ending up with 10 different job descriptions. There's some guys who they're like, I just run the building. And there's others who they just build the roster and they are real and look at numbers. And there's some who are, they just work on promotion sponsorship stuff. So what does the GM role look like for Trinidad, where I'm trying to think, where is it different from other GM roles? Where is it very similar? Because just from what you've said, your involvement with the league and the team, it seems really in depth and very hands on. Well,
an intern could run with me for a season and run a team.
Okay.
Okay. I'm over all the operations and the team, and that's incrementally has happened over the years.
Sure.
I just got to the point where I would slowly took control of everything because I had to sustain the team. I don't have a big market, and so I don't have a huge audience per se like some of the other cities do, or the sponsorship opportunities. We're very fortunate. We're sponsored by Toyota Corporation vis-a-vis our local dealership. And
cool.
The halftime report brought to you by Toyota. It's to that level. And otherwise, we wouldn't be able to sustain this deal. And it's still tough. But for my operation, the last thing I took over was hiring the manager. I had a manager that came in after the pandemic, and all he wanted to do was play. And Andrew's hands were tied with the limited that he had to choose from, and basically he wouldn't do anything about it. And so I ended up, I said, you know what, if you're not going to do anything about it, I will. And I fired him and hired my own manager. So sometimes it's been a big fail and sometimes it's been a big success. It just depends. And I was pushing to get us into Mexico because I needed somewhere to send my guys. And, Mexico's going winter, summer. They're going all the time. So I developed relationships there. And we did have affiliation with Liga. in Mexico. But I mean, the Mexicanos, God bless them, they're amazing baseball players, and they require a lot. They want their demands met. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we can't sustain. It just became a sustainment issue for me. So I flipped the switch on my thinking and recruiting aspect. And I had last year I had a team that was a lot of international guys, and the year before that as well. And so I've gotten away from that. I only have one guy from the Dominican this year, and everybody else is, has been recruited through my amazing recruiter. His name is Luke Popovich, and he was the manager at Blackwell, and he's managed at Pecos, and he was going to Garden City, and then they decided they wanted somebody else, and he was supposed to be placed at Blackwell, and they didn't want him, and so he came to me, and he had a whole team with him, and I was recruiting and rock and roll. Let's go. Come to mama. Let's play.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I finally have somebody recruiting for me, and somebody that knows what they're doing, because I would always get on the short end of the stick because I didn't go to the camps and recruit. And if it's a choice for the draft decision, if somebody's really good, where are they going to go? Santa Fe or Trinidad? More than likely, they're going to go to Santa Fe.
Yeah, I can see that. And that, I guess, sort of stumbles into my next thing, because I was also interested. I wasn't sure. I mean, so the answer is yes when it comes to your job description. if it's
yes.
Is it a thing you do? Yes,
exactly.
you do it.
I mean, the finance, everything on the ground, everything, the hiring, everything.
And that also sort of gets to my next question, because I was interested, and I felt like for a number of years, I can't confess to being a long time Pecos League follower, but I became aware. I tell Nick the first time I think I started covering indie ball myself, and then I found this podcast. I was like, what's this sicko doing? And I threw it on. And right. I think you were talking Pecos League, and in my head for a while there, the two leagues were the Atlantic League and the Pecos, because it was 2020, so there wasn't any baseball happening, and I was just learning everything. And so I've been aware of it at least since 2020. And I felt like for a long time, Trinidad always was the younger brother, the little brother in the division. And all of a sudden, it increased a little bit over time. But then last year was really, I mean, y'all seemed to have a handle on things last year.
Major fail. Look, we tried a living situation where it was communal. We invested a lot of money, raised a bunch of money to fix a facility so we could have something that would sustain both the visiting team and the home team. And it just did not work.
That's brutal. Okay. Because I'm always curious, because everything was going so well. I was like, I think this, and not that anyone was really asking me over on the East Coast, but I was like, this might be the Triggers' year. And then all of a sudden it just looked like it was a struggle. I was like, no, what happened?
Well,
so, okay, that's interesting.
That is what happened. And
interesting.
We're lost.
You're fine. Somewhere in Kansas.
We're somewhere in Kansas. This is
if you see a witch on a broom, run.
But and the year before that, the Tijuana Toros sent me 10 pitchers, and I mean, we had a pitching staff of 17 guys.
Yeah.
But there was no balance. Our fielders were junk. I'm sorry, boys. I love y'all, but I mean, it was like we had, and I learned so much every year, and more is not necessarily good, having a big roster. There's been some failures. I mean, if you were watching, so the team in 23 and 24, we were doing very well. We had a target on our back, and everybody was calling us the thugs of the league, and okay. But so I had problems with the managers. They went rogue on the roster and decided they were going to, deactivate veterans and not tell them and let them play, things of that nature. And I trusted my managers to do the right thing, and I have to take the responsibility though, because I didn't reconcile the roster. And so here we are in a playoff situation, whereas we were playing Blackwell, we played out a series, and then we went into playoffs with them. that was the first round.
Mm.
And Luke Polkovich, who is now my recruiter, was the Blackwell manager, and they had thrown him off the team. There was a mutiny on him that year. God bless him. I mean, he's a young guy. He was like 22 when that was going on. So anyway, Luke went through and found every inning, every pitch, everything that was done with players that weren't on the roster after the freeze.
Mm.
And we beat them to go into the playoffs, and there was no adjudication or anything about the roster piece. And so we went to the next round, which was Garden City. And that was a major fail there, just because our credibility was shot. I mean, I felt later that we should have probably just been disqualified for everything that had occurred. And, you know, and so I ended up having to fire those managers. And then they took the team with them. And then they went on the road. I don't know if you were aware of it. They went on the road with the Frontier League, or, you know, playing their teams, and the Atlantic League as well. That's how I found out about it. Because I speak to Andrew every day, and, you know, everything was moving right along, but I didn't have a team because those guys had, you know, fleed me out. So here I am starting again, trying to put my team together. And in the meantime, these guys are playing spring training games, and everybody thinks I'm not going to find out about it. You know, like it was a big secret. Andrew had given them jerseys to play in and everything. And so they were really representing the Pecos League when they were doing this. And one of my boys in Pennsylvania called and said, "Hey, we're playing the Pecos League for spring training." And I said, "No, you're not. You don't have any guys out there." And sure enough, that was the case. So anyway, long story short, sorry about the
that's all good.
tales. But so I let those guys go. Team was cleaned out, hired the man I'd been working with in Mexico for the season before. We had a lot of success. He helped me with all the transactions out of Tijuana, because I tried to call their bluff. They called. They had developed a relationship, and they wanted to get into America, and they wanted to work with me. And you know, here we are. Their whole thing was, you know, we'll send you guys pictures, and Kim gets first shot at them. And what she doesn't take, we all can have. And so initially it was 25, and then it dwindled down to 10. And they called me and said, "Well, we got 10 pictures. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, being the greedy person that I am, I said, well, yeah, that gate's up here. I said, I'll take them all. What was I going to do? Send half of them to my opponents? You know, it's just, but the thing, you know, what happened there was I dug myself a hole because they were told that they were going to be fed 3 meals a day, plus their pay. I feed my guys one meal a day. And I mean, it's expensive. I mean, it adds up. My lunch bill at the college that year was $12,000 for the buffet, and that was at $7 a pop. So anyway, the Mexicans wanted 3 meals a day, and I told Mr. Cano, Raul Cano, and Tijuana, I said, I can't do that. If I feed them 3 meals a day, I got to feed all my boys 3 meals a day. And I mean, it's, you know, it's the little things like that that, you know, GM's concentrating on, you know, randomness. But I mean,
yeah,
you know, you run the numbers on something like that, and it's, you know, it's very expensive. And so, you know, we could have, I had one of the best teams. That doesn't mean we're guaranteed to win anything, you know, if we don't manage it correctly, you know. So went with Mexico. My guy that I'd been working with didn't do any recruiting, didn't bring any players in, except for some real young guys. And I had picked up some players and, you know, thought I had some solid people, and it just we were dead ass last. I mean, and that's not a trigger season by any stretch of the imagination. So this year when I started, after last year, started to recruit. Christian Carmucci became my manager, my field manager, because Vallejo. Right. Did you hear what happened to Vallejo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone went in there and stripped their whole field of all their copper. And I don't know how that occurs. That would take some time, you think.
Yeah, that feels like a multi-day project. I mean, I'm no expert. I haven't stolen any.
I haven't either, but you would think, well, I mean, the insurance claim was $1 million.
Yeah.
I
mean,
comp not cheap.
It felt like they left it unattended, but I don't know.
Well,
I'm not going to point fingers.
I'm not either. But one thing led to another, and I ended up with Mooch because Andrew, he didn't want anything to happen to him, and he didn't want him to lose out. And then they completely shut that club down. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And Andrew was spent on it. So, they wanted to do a travel team. So that would have been 2 travel teams in California. I'm like, you're crazy, Andrew. What do you, we can't do that, And, I mean, obviously that didn't work out. So, then I was able to pick up Luke because he did the rounds, like I was saying, and went full circle with him. And he said, I didn't come to you right away. I thought you were mad at me because of what had happened, years past. And this is what I said to him. I said, Luke, I want you to come in and work with me and do exactly what you did to me to someone else. I need somebody like you, to strategically be there, and he's in the front office with me. And I want you to be that person. And I mean, he's a recruiting machine. He's put these players that we have this year that we've worked really hard to get, recruit, and bring here and boost their confidence because he's not here on site. He's not the field manager. Christian is. He's more in the background. But it's changed the face of the Triggers overnight. It would have taken me years to rebuild otherwise, I feel, had I not taken this route. And please know, it hasn't been easy. People are pissed. I mean, people are pissed. At first, Andrew called me and he said, well, I don't know what to do with Luke. What they thought was going to happen was Luke would go away and his players would be available. Well, his players stayed with him. Basically, they followed him. And so after everything, Andrew called me and he said, well, they don't want him and they don't want him. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I picked him up. He said, you did what? I said, picked them all up. The whole team. Yep, they're Mars. They're mine. Get them off the roster in Garden City or whatever we need to do. Yeah. And so he did. And then Andrew said, that was brilliant. Yeah. And, so that was a good kudo. And then people started to get upset and he demanded that we fire him. And I declined that. And I said, this young man, he's prepared. He's knowledgeable. He's recruited a fantastic team for me. He's prepared, and I'm not letting him go. If you want me to do that, I'll just give you the whole team, and you can take care of it. You're safe. So, I mean, that's always my threat to him. I'll just give you back your team. Here you go. You can manage it. And he and I have been together for 16 years. I mean, we've raised a lot of kids and done, had a whole lot of good times and bad. Yeah. So, it's a pretty close relationship.
So, okay. I have a bunch of questions now from that whole story. So this is interesting because, again, from my angle, I bear witness to the Pecos League, but I don't get to like the ins and outs, just things for all I know, for most that part, you show up with your roster on opening day and I go, okay, that's who's here this year. So, okay. And now with background, interesting. So it seems it feels like you deal with a lot of the same things that every indie ball GM does, but also there's just levels of other things ranging from professional business challenges to flat out shenanigans of just baseball people. Okay. And and I'm always interested in where Andrew fits into all of this. So Andrew is very limited hands-on with the actual team. Okay. That answers one of my questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's there for me when he helps me with, the website and things of that nature. But no, he's not in there grinding with me running this team by any stretch.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. So it's more like a league administrator.
Him or me?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew more takes the league admin role as opposed to a hands-on role with okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I'll tell you, when he shows up to do things, when he shows up at the park, it turns into like a magical experience. It really does. I mean, he embraces people. He gets them on the field. He does fun. I mean, he just does fun things, and he's funny. He'll meet people, and he goes to all these cities, and he remembers their names. He engages with them. He remembers their situations. It's just really mind-boggling to me because of how much he's on the road.
I feel like I'm a neutral party in all this. I won't sugarcoat it. There are a lot of people with takes about Andrew Dunn with a lot of negative opinions. But also it's clear that there's a unique skill set to maintaining this. I mean,
yeah.
What?
Oh God, it's incredible.
I'm trying to think, like, in somebody with your role where you were, basically, I'm trying to find it's hard to even describe it. GM, owner, founder of a team. I mean, I'm trying to even wrap a little bit around, the amount that's on your plate. And then meanwhile, Andrew's like, by the way, we have another team coming in. And also,
and your schedule's going to change again. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't even know if there's a question there. I was just processing all that information because I answered like 7 of my questions about the Pecos League within about 3 minutes. Right. Okay. So do you ever, and this is more just a curiosity question from somebody, again, in your unique role with the Pecos League, do you have hopes for the Pecos to be anything other than what it is, or do you just want to continue to see it as what it is and just stronger, more solid, like continue to solidify what is there?
Well, so, solidifying means, everything is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And, throughout the cities, sure, I would love for the Pecos League to be able to go to the next level. And that's all about money. And, in this world, the way we're doing business and how we operate, things are becoming so expensive. We have to get really creative on how we're going to sustain. And like I said, I like your Range Rider shirt there. That's a good one.
Yeah, they sent me this too. I was like, man, gracious, making me feel like a celebrity.
That's it. And I think Andrew sees it the same way. Probably shaving off a couple more teams at some point somehow, and keeping that 12 teams, let's just say, and trying to sustain in those markets. I mean, where we are now, everybody's. I mean, Roswell. I mean, some of those towns like Roswell, for instance. Not anything against anybody. This is just a business perspective feasibility piece, but the demographic of that area is aging. There's really no industry or anything to bring people in. And so we're seeing a decline there in people getting involved, that are at, middle age, for instance. They did fix their field from what I understand because it was very flooded.
That's huge.
Yeah, and so hopefully we don't lose an ankle or, anything of that nature. And Roswell's always been tough. We go down there for a game or two and they kick our ass, and actually lost the championship to Roswell in 23 in my own park, right in front of my eyes. Andrew was getting ready to hand me the trophy, and in the 9th inning in the 3rd game we choked and gave it back to the Invaders, and Lance Myers was on my field taking the trophy home. So that was a huge disappointment. I mean, we were right there. But I was able to analyze what we were doing wrong and see it for myself. And I was carrying too many guys, and many of them were young and they hadn't played together enough, and they just didn't have the coping skills to get through the playoffs. So, I mean, like I said, every year, I mean, baseball chose me. I didn't choose baseball. So every year there's this huge, learning, teaching moment or whatever the case may be of, what to do right or wrong. But now I'm one of the old dogs on the porch, and it's just so weird because, I mean, it just time has gone by so fast, and there's been so many people over the years. But now I know a lot of people, and I think there's a level of respect that they give me, for that. But I don't know. Ask me another question because I'm going to just ramble on. I don't
No, you're good. And I know we have to wrap up soon, so I know you got a game to get to, and we have a rest of a podcast to get to.
Yeah.
But the thing that really has struck me, because if I'm honest, there have been times really you can only get so deep into Austin weirdos shenanigans before you go, I don't know if this is necessary. And sometimes there has admittedly been times where I'm like, what are we doing with the Pecos right now? There's been times there's not enough talent to fill the Pioneer League, and I'm like, what are we going to do with the Pecos? But there's other times, and I think it's an interesting example, like with Grand Junction, where Grand Junction's been bailed on by Major League Baseball, and that's been bailed on by the Pioneer League. But they still got people there who are fans, and there's still fans in these towns, and who is going to be there to give them like baseball. And I think that's a really important thing to be filling. You mentioned that you're from the Trinidad, right? The working with the city or the town. Is that correct?
I was the Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So
that's how I met Andrew.
Unique insight. Yeah. So you have a unique insight. I mean, what is the relationship like between, the city? It can be specific to Trinidad or just in general. The city's involved with the Pecos and the teams, in sort of how are they, almost lifelines for each other in a way, because, you need everything you can get from the towns, and the towns, you're their team.
That's very important. And a lot of those, teams, and I say this kind of, they're run by committee. I mean, you've got all these different people and their hands. Not me. It's a centralized operation. The buck stops with me. I mean, and things can get away from me very easily. I'm not saying, I'm the end all. I need help and I need good people, and sometimes they're hard to find. But I've been the go-between between Andrew and the city and everything. And he doesn't. There's been years that I never even seen him. He, didn't have to go to Trinidad. And when it first all happened, if you recall, we had the Raton Osos, we had the Las Vegas train robbers, we had the Taos, Dairy Queen Blizzard, and all those teams have failed because they just didn't have the business savvy to raise the money to keep this thing going. And that's, I came out of my occupation, that's all I did. Raising money for events and things of that nature. So it was a natural fit for me. And I always felt honored to be part of it. I've learned a lot with how to manage these men, and, they can get very complacent. And so it's almost like you have to, you can't give them too much. Much is not going to work. And so I just try to keep it professional and try to keep them focused. And with this team I have right now, it's all about winning. It's all about winning and keeping that together. And if you're not a winner, there's somebody that's Luke Scott right behind you. So I've never been in that position to have somebody recruiting really exceptional guys for this team. Back in the early, 13, 14, 15, 16, before the Pioneer League, there was, my first team, I had guys on that team that were almost 7 feet tall. There was a lot more to choose from, a lot more pitchers, and a lot of size too. Mm-hmm. And so, we've had to adapt, and it's taken its toll, because it's the same level of baseball. However, they have these giant budgets, and we don't. So, we operate the best way we can, and I try to keep it respectable. And the guys won't even have us on their Facebook, or they don't want to admit that they played with us or whatever, but they did. And that's the reason why they are where they are. We keep the ball rolling. And so, I demand that level of respect when you come on our team. You're all about it. Andrew has to deal with the government entities and all the stadium people and all the officials and everybody else in every other city, competes in. And Grand Junction, it's been a lot of work. Andrew's spent a lot of time there, and it's very difficult to get to. You can fly from Denver to Grand Junction. Yeah. Yesterday, he flew from Tucson to Grand Junction because he's setting up events and the such, and they're changing things on him. He's very nervous. They've recruited a good team. Ryan and Dave Ramsey. So they're going to be forced to contend with, but they have to travel. I ran the numbers for him. It was incredible. It was like 3,000 miles this summer.
Yeah, I was eyeing that up a little bit. Yeah, I don't envy it.
Yeah. Well, and so Andrew went and got him a van. Yeah, transportation. That's a whole other.
I'm just.
Did I answer your question?
I know. Because it's
like spring training. We went to Blackwell, Oklahoma for spring training. We were there on the 20th of May and ran all the way through, and then we were supposed to play, and then we just came back and started in Trinidad, and it's just been a whirlwind already, as they all are. I mean, every season it's a grind, and like I said, you never know what's going to happen, and keeping these guys focused is the key.
Sorry, it's your podcast. I can give it to you. I know that
I was going to say there's one
wrap up at some point, so I'll allow you.
Yeah, how nice of you. But yeah, I have one thing that's kind of sticking out to me. While we're having the whole conversation, talking about respecting the organization and respecting the league itself here, and that brought me back to a lot of people have a perception of the Pecos League as this kind of, Ryan was touching on a bit, where it's like indie ball and then this kind of a thing here. So what in your mind is the biggest thing? I know we talked about stability and making sure that everything's level, but what's like the biggest thing here about changing that perception? What has to be the big push to make us, view the Pecos League as, no, this is a very serious entity that we need to stop all the rumors and mumbles about and to start taking as the serious entity it is?
Well, I really feel that it starts at the management level of the team. And, there's been some snafus, and finding good managers at this level is very difficult.
Yeah.
Guys that have a family or a real job, or, whatever the case may be, they're not going to drop everything and become a Pecos League manager. But having the resources in the cities before you drop a team in there, is key. There's so many variables, and, the city has to be able to, the city, the market, the organization, whomever, has to make sure housing is a huge issue.
Yeah.
So now when we go into a city, it's like, we've got to have housing, we've got to have visitor housing, and if we don't, then we can't come.
Yeah.
Can't be here. Moving into the future, promoting ourselves well. Andrew's really worked hard on our websites and how, the automation of that occurs. But we've had to switch over. Point Streak went away.
Yeah.
That's a major hurt, man. I mean, you can't. There's nowhere to follow anything, and so he's been putting out a sheet every day, and they've been doing the recap. And if your cameras aren't positioned right, then you're not going to make the recap. Because and so when we go into the city, like I said, less is more. We have to. We got to make sure that all those variables are taken care of. And sometimes Andrew has jumped the gun on that, and it hasn't been. And so it becomes a rigorous project that either is set up for failure or, it comes around. Pecos, Texas, for instance, they've got a fantastic program, a beautiful facility, and it's so hot there that people don't go to the game.
Yeah. It's a common challenge that you see a lot with a lot of the southern teams, where you have a lot of really great markets, but it's a really tough sell when it's middle of July and it's 95 out to sit outside for a few hours. It's a really tough sell.
I told him, I said, you guys need to enclose those stands, get some draft beer and some greasy meat, and let's go. Let's get people out there. How long, how long would that sustain? And we talk about that, how many years are we going to go? I was at 13 years with the Triggers, and I was ready to bang it.
Yeah.
And my city put $2 million into our park. And so then it's like, okay, well, this is what we've been working for. This is the beginning of it all, really. I mean, to have a beautiful facility. I used to be like, well, we don't have any electricity, water, or Wi-Fi, but we get it done, And so, and my biggest thing is I have to backfill my market. I have we live in rural Colorado, and
Mhm.
people don't have a whole lot of money, and if I give it away, it has no value. So there's a delicate balance. Bringing the little league games in was, again, he said, brilliant. To play t-ball and have my guys out on the field, and doing that, and 100 parents in the stands instead of on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Is changing the face of our season in a big way. Because we have people there for the first innings.
Yeah. It feels like the answer is really like the three P's, if you would. It'd be promoting yourself, having a plan, and then making sure the play that people are coming to see is up to par is really the key here.
It's all about the league. I say it all the time. If it's good for, if it's good for the league, it's good for everybody. And we have to, all of the teams have to look good. I mean, we built a strong team, and, we're positioned to, to win and do our thing. But, Santa Fe needs to look good.
Mm-hmm.
Their Junction needs to look good. Garden needs to do their thing. And otherwise, there's Randy. Catch him to open that gate. That's what he's doing. Okay. And I've had 3 back surgeries in 4 years. And so I don't go out on the field anymore or anything like that. Yeah. But, I mean, it's all about, being prepared and taking care of the guys. And look, I mean, I'll go through the season. I'll go through my schedule with Andrew and say, well, I can't beam my guys from here to here. We need, I get in there and I make sure that it's going to work. And I don't think everybody does that. Yeah. I mean, I've just learned over the years, because when I pay for gas. Yeah. I pay for gas. My guys eat. They have per diem. And God bless Andrew. He's a 3-ring circus. I mean, I tell him that and he loves baseball, and he loves these cities, and he wants to keep it going. Sometimes we wonder how long that will be, because of like this year, gas prices are burgeoning over $4 a gallon. Hotels, their prices, we can't get into hotels for less than $100 a night. I'll have 207 room nights this season, hosting teams.
Yeah.
And that's 7 rooms a night, and even at $72 per room per night, I mean, that's $600-700 a night on top of my umpires and everything else. I mean, just to walk on the field, I mean, we're looking at $3,500 easy, with everything. So, I mean, raising the money and being prepared. I mean, I've learned over the years, the cash flow. You got to have your cash flow. I mean, you got to watch every variable, everything with this. And, there's shenanigans that happen. I mean, there are. I mean, the things that have happened over the years with hometown umpires and playoffs and, I mean, just absolutely phenomenal circumstances. And like, I don't know if you're following Pecos, but there was a manager there by the name of Carlos, and they had to let him go. And he went rogue on his social media. And that was a real problem.
It goes back to making sure you have a unified front here. You need to have the proper image for everybody. We talk about that a lot across a lot of the other leagues, where you'll just see the one duckling that falls behind, and it's like, guys, this is a black eye on everybody. It has to be everybody pulling in the same direction here and keeping it together. We can't be doing this fighting each other behind the scenes and leaving each other for dead thing here. It's a rising tide. It lifts all the boats. And I'm one, I like to sell tickets, and my market, they love a good fight. They love a good bench clearing, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And, you got to bring some drama into it. We had, these last 3 games that we played against the Alpine Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboy Army is nothing to, you can't take them lightly at all. And we've never swept them in a series at home, ever. I mean, we've gone down there and beat them in the playoffs. And one year, one of my boys from Birmingham said, "Mama Kay, you could have heard a pin drop in that stadium when we won that day." But, it is a black eye on what you're saying, as far as if there is a consistency or somebody falls behind. And I'm very much on making the league better as a whole. And that's where, I mean, I wrote a grant to do some different things with umpires. And,
and actually go through the academy. And now that's gone away. So maybe there's opportunity there for training, because training, I trained my staff on how to deal with umpires. And because I saw a major fail one night with umpires and the team. And to the extent the umpire was like throwing fans out. I mean, it was horrible. And I said, I will never, ever, I never want to see that again, ever. Yeah. In this deal. And so I've been working really hard, and I think we're getting there. We're at a place where we've got really good umpires everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. So, we don't want to take any more of your time. You've been very generous with that. We know you got a game to get to. So what we normally do around here is when we get to the end of these, we like to give you 5 minutes or so to promote anything you want to promote, say anything you want to say. If there's a topic that we maybe touched on but moved on quickly from and you want to go back to that, that'd be a great time for this. So anything you want to say, the floor is yours now.
Well, I just want to say, again, I was mentioning that we've gone to the Vimeo platform for our to watch our games. Yeah. And so, the camera view, the definition, it's just a beautiful shot, and it's a lot of fun to watch. You don't have Point Streak anymore to keep up with the league. So, I recommend that people get on our social media, because we recap every day. It's fun to watch those scores and to watch this league as to, where the teams are, because anything can happen. Alpine just had a 4-game losing streak. Roswell beat them on the way to Trinidad. And so, things of that nature, people are, we have diehard fans that love the Pecos League. And it is an animal unto its own. And we're not the Frontier. We're not Pioneer. We're not American. And we never will be. We just won't. Those budgets. And I'll tell you also, what you see is not necessarily what you get with those teams. Going into Grand Junction after the Jackalopes pretty much decimated the market there. And when I say that, the reports I'm getting back is, they didn't pay a lot of, their responsibilities and take care of things. And,
that tracks.
To go into a city after that has occurred to promote baseball and sponsors haven't been fulfilled, it's not going to happen. It's very difficult. And that occurred in North Platte, Nebraska too, after Chuck Heyman left there, and did a bunch of sponsorships and the such, and then got up and left. And so, our league, we don't miss games. We don't stop early. We don't quit. That's the biggest thing. We play through. We have to. I had a team quit at the end of the year one time, and it'll never ever happen again. But otherwise, we are consistent with that. And Andrew is true blue when it comes to, making sure the stats are correct. And, we're doing a consistent job, and we're playing through, and we've got a good product. And it's a fun product, and it's good baseball. It's good, fast baseball. And I know there's statistics out there that I don't know that it's some of the, there's more plays in Pecos League baseball than any league in the country. That just means it's good, fast baseball, and it's small town baseball. You have to go into markets where there's nothing going on. Yeah. Nothing. Most of those. And like in Colorado, I play through the week because I don't want to compete with everybody's weekend. In Colorado, there's too much for things for people to do. I'm a Monday through Thursday team, really, or Sunday through Thursday. So I just want to say thank you for including me on your show. I also want to say, there's always a lot of rumors and speculation, and people are, they play their drama games and such. And some of the things that you hear out there aren't necessarily true, or, that happens with everything. But, if you guys ever have any questions or want clarification on something, then reach out. We're here. Andrew, he'll be as upfront as possible. And he hasn't been perfect. He really hasn't, but his heart's in it, and he's not out to burn anybody. Or, that's just not how we operate. He wants to run a nice, clean operation. And so, we all do the best we can. And it's, we're having a good season so far, and got a great team. So I can just sit here and smile and say, go Triggers.
Oh, we're happy to have you on. We appreciate you taking the time to hop on with us.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
And if you're ever in the area or any of the teams, please reach out and let us know so we can take care of you.
Oh, we'd love
Will do. I'll let you know about next month. I'm hoping I can be out there. So I will definitely, I'll reach out.
I mean, I've got a brand new Hilton downtown. I've got a beautiful renovated baseball park in a nice, beautiful rural Colorado town that has a lot of history and brick streets and, the whole 9 yards. So please come and visit.
Yeah, I will say the renovated ballpark seems to match the views, at least in Trinidad. It's nice. So I'm looking forward to it.
I tell Andrew, okay, Andrew, who's got the best park? He goes through, Keno, besides the big ones. And, he says, Kim, your little park is perfect. I mean, it's just a perfect Pecos League park. It's been a pleasure meeting y'all.
Yep.
Of course. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right, once again, we'd like to thank Kim for taking the time to pop on the program with us. Very interesting discussion we had. We both have a lot of thoughts here, so we're going to get into those right now. And then we'll wrap it up with the manager changes that have happened in the Atlantic and the Frontier. But before that, like I said, Pecos League discussion here. Immediate thoughts and takeaway.
Okay. There's a lot. There were some negatives there.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because the moment there's a negative or like what are we doing here? It's so easy to be like Pecos League, as if we haven't covered such shenanigans from every other league.
Oh, you mean as though I didn't go ahead and turn off every single Pioneer League listener last week with, I don't even care about them anymore.
Yeah, that was brutal. I do respect that you just did that.
Sometimes you just got to shoot your shot.
Yeah, or yourself in the foot, whatever.
That's what this show is. We don't shoot foots here. We shoot mouths.
I mentioned it in the pod. I was kind of struck by just how similar a lot of that conversation was to our conversations with other GMs. I mean, there's so much overlap between the goals and the struggle and what they're trying to do. And, the grind of, they put in all these years. They finally get a stadium renovation, by the way. I wish I asked a little more about that. Their stadium, check it out at some point. The renovation upgrade to that stadium is, maybe the biggest leap I've seen from before and after with a professional baseball stadium in my life. It looks good.
What you're saying though, scale is like the one thing that's the difference between them all. It's the same problems. It's just the scale of the problem.
Right. It is. And it does feel, so I feel like most GMs are fighting the battle of, it's almost the, if for any of you who are, I don't know, I just went down a Cormac McCarthy rabbit hole, so I don't need to get literary with my Pecos League comparison here, but reading The Road got me thinking about, apocalypse situations. And I feel like a lot of being a baseball GM is paying attention to the little things. It's the little things that will do you in. It's making sure, nothing is away. She mentioned how at one point she was like, oh, okay, like this guy, he's handling the roster, good to go. And kind of like turned, came back, and the team was a garbage fire. Or they thought the housing was fixed and then it wasn't, and it was a disaster. It's like over time, it's become just a matter of, all right, let's stay locked in on that. And I think that's the same as any other organization. I think there's probably a lot of execs, because I know we're very much an industry podcast, that I think will resonate, that a lot of those things are going to resonate with. On the other side, it's every little thing, all the little holes that can open in the boat feel immensely do or die when the boat is smaller. It feels like 3 wrong turns here or 3 things slipping by all of a sudden, like this is not an organization anymore. And that's not, a shot at, it's just not a shot at Trinidad. It's just the reality of the Pecos where, the margins are thin. And it is, you cannot have a big misstep here or multiple small ones or else you're in trouble. So it was eye-opening. I also, here's a weird one. This is going to be a weird take. Part of me was like, man, like it does feel like a training ground for future executives in a way. And mainly because she listed a bunch of mistakes she has made that I thought, oh, you get fired for that other places.
Yeah.
But there's some forgiveness there.
It's like a boot camp almost.
Yeah. Like, okay, now like a whole season went sideways, learn a lesson there, bouncing back and doing it right this time and you learning and growing. I was like, oh, like we've talked a lot about how the Pecos is an important gap filler between, the not playing baseball and the pioneer. And it's an viable. I wonder if it is a little bit like that for people who are involved in front office stuff. I know like Ethan Ivey is a guy I go to a lot. He was with Alpine and now he's working with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, if I recall, shout to him.
Wow.
Who he's on the broadcast team, I think. And he was good. He got a podcast going for the Cowboys. It was pretty cool. But like I could see, dude, he was like borderline a GM down there. And I'm like, man, he got hands on with every part of the operation and then he was gone and out. And in my head, I'm like, man, maybe there's a lot of value there. And I don't know if they are, this could be me being ignorant because I'm on the East Coast, but if they're not sort of selling it that way, I would be selling it that way. Like this is like league executive and like team executive boot camp. Like if you want to get hands on with every part of the organization, not just being a marketing intern throwing out t-shirts, like Pecos League could be a spot. I don't know. That's not an advertisement for me. I just thought it was Jesus, like the things I was sort of processing as I was listening to to what Kim had to say.
I don't take that. What I appreciate the most, I think, is that she was very realistic about the Pecos League and what it is and where they want to be. And that is something I appreciate because, like you were saying, with the Pecos League, it always feels like you have these two giant swings as to those that are looking at as glorified men's league and those that view it as a legitimate, serious challenger. And neither one appears to be true here. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact that if you're a younger guy, it definitely is an opportunity area. And I think that's kind of building on what you were just saying with the executive part. I mean, we're talking about a 22-year-old getting a chance to manage. Where else are you going to really see that, know? And a lot of times it seems like these managers are getting a lot of responsibilities, learning how to build teams and do all these kinds of things here. And so from that perspective, it almost feels like to me the Division 2 to Division 1 of indie ball, right? Where you have guys to go there. And if you really ball out here, then your next step is like, okay, we're going to find like a mid-major place for you to try to make your mark here in Division 1. Then you're going to climb from there. So from an off-the-field perspective is like building on what you said, where I feel pretty strongly in agreement with you, where you can really start to build out a career. I think as a manager, as a coach especially, you're getting so much experience doing all these things here. Would I want one of these guys to immediately go from like managing the, I guess, let me pick a team at random, the Roswell Invaders or, something like that, to now, congratulations, go manage the Washington Wild things. Like, no, I would not want that. That is not something I would feel comfortable with at all. But if you told me like you're going to go from managing Roswell or something like that to being a bench coach or some kind of assistant coach in like, let's say Modesto, yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I feel like that's a really good progression mark there. You do well there, maybe you go manage in Great Falls or something like that. I think there is a career ladder that can start there. I also appreciate that she pointed out like, hey, look, there's some organizations here that maybe shouldn't be here, right? And that we got to do a better job planning out our moves and being a little bit more, practical when it comes to thinking about the logistics of these things, right? Like, hey, it's going to cost us like $1,000 every time a team comes to town here, and we're not drawing crowds all the time that are really going to justify that expense. So if we're burning through a couple G's a week here and we're not doing everything else right, then we got to find, ways to be more economical, especially given the current climate here. And again, it goes back to being a realist, which is something I appreciate. It wasn't just blind loyalty towards one league or anything like that. It was like, look, no, I think there's a lot good here, but look, we got to make sure we're making the right moves here.
Yes. I also, by the way, Kim and I, kindred spirits in a way, because both of us have been sitting here going, oh, less is more, brother. Like, you do not need a 75 markets in the Pecos. You need 12 to 8 good ones. And I love how she summarizes it with, there's only so much pitching. Like, it's so true. Because it wasn't even just like, we got some bad markets, and like we have just been here like, dude, there ain't enough pitching to cover this many teams. Like, what are we doing?
There's going to be a bank run on pitching very shortly.
I mean, what you described, I mean, Sean Persky's the example. I mean, he had some very successful seasons with Alpine, and then he made his way to Boise, was bench coach. Now he's the manager. I think that's good. And so far, so good. Going well in Boise right now. I think that's an interesting and healthy roadmap to things. But I mean, he cut his teeth through it. He was at it for years. I mean, he mastered it going through the Pecos. I think it's interesting as well that, she did point out, there are positives and negatives to working with Andrew. It's, he's got energy. He's a salesman. He's determined. He's baseball focused, but also like, even she's like, hey, like, that's not how buses work. Like, we cannot just, what'd you say? We can't teleport the team from one state to the other, or, we don't need a team in that location. We're okay. Like, just stop. We can't have 2 travel teams in California. Like, no. So I think that's really interesting.
The Pioneer League is not concerned with such problems.
Yeah, right. Honestly, it was enlightening. There was a lot that I went, okay, that there was a lot of just things that filled in the gaps for me, where like, oh, okay, I understand how we ended up there. And like from things I've seen on the outside and wondered, how did this go about? And then, okay, now I understand it. And there's other things too, where I'm just, again, I'm like, God, Pecos going to Pecos, huh? Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think she also a unique fit for it because she came from working like for the city, the Chamber of Commerce. So Kim, like, she has that background, because this is certainly something where you need to,
be able to handle the logistics of this and have the vision to be able to go like, look, we're still a business here, and we're still an entertainment business here, and we need to be able to attract people in. That's our main thing here. So when entertainment budgets and discretionary spending are low, what are we doing here to get the people into our ballpark?
And having like a pre-existing working relationship and understanding of the city side too, and the team side is like massive. Yeah,
definitely. But yes, it was a good interview though.
I had fun.
Honestly, when this was first coming together, I was like, I don't really know if I want to talk to Pecos League people here. My opinion was pretty well set. And I will say it has definitely changed my view on it. I've definitely gotten a softer view on it. So am I going to be following them closely? Probably not. I mean, hell, you just listen to me talk about the Pioneer League the way I did last week. Possibly a little too hard in the paint.
That'll be a really funny back-to-back week, by the way. Just like, I'm writing off the Pioneer League and be like, I'm all in on the Pecos League. Like, just people just heads exploding.
The amount of angry DMs I will get again. I'm more open-minded to them. I'm still, very wary of it, but it's definitely making me be less hard on them, probably.
Can I say something to sort of wrap this up and move us toward the next portion of this episode that is going to infuriate some people?
Sure.
There's some people who are not going to be happy about this.
I'm sure of that.
Multiple times in that conversation, I thought to myself, boy, oh boy, are Andrew Dunn and Joe Torre two sides of the same coin.
Well, why are you bringing that smoke on yourself?
Dude, I'm not saying, other than that, hey, and I'm not saying to Joe that you are Andrew Dunn. I'm not saying Andrew Dunn, you are Joe Torre, because that's not the case. I could see why they would conflict, because in my life, like the people I conflict with
are the ones most like you.
we're wired the
Yeah.
same way, but we have different ideas on where to go, but we're passionate as hell about it. Like, I mean, hell, even like in my own marriage, Jackie and I we have the realization like once a month, we're like, anytime we have a disagreement, it's because we have the same opinion and we just have different like routes. Like, what are we doing? Like,
It's a good thing Jackie doesn't listen to this show.
She doesn't need to. She knows. But I think
This
that
is for the wall.
I think it's just, you heard a bottle break out there. I think it's interesting. And it also explained a little bit more to me, even this bit of insight, like what the issue is there. You know what I mean? Anyway, I know we're just going to do, I mean, am I correct? We're basically going to do sort of a basic general news pod, and we're going to do a little bit of more in-depth work next week.
That's exactly right. Next week, we're going to go very in-depth on the actual play on the field, because we also will have another interview next week, but we'll leave that for that. But yeah, we're just going to cover some of the more major news things here, which I guess would be 2 managers, 1 GM.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the Frontier League happenings first, or do we want to talk about the Atlantic League happening?
We can. Good question.
Because the Frontier League ones are more just pretty stock standard, but they happen first.
Yeah, that's true. I guess so. Yeah.
Right, so we'll go Frontier into Atlantic to wrap it. So the bigger the two, because Washington no longer has a general manager listed on their website. Whatever happened there, who's to say? So that's interesting for them. It seems like a good job to have, though. They're one of the better orgs, so we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, no GM listed there anymore. That happened. It had to be sometime over the weekend or early this week. So curious about that one.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Yeah. And then the more interesting and frontaled one, what was it? Sunday night?
Yeah, I guess it was probably,
this is what happens when I don't write
when
notes
it went
down.
public, right? I think it was Sunday night, I guess.
Yes, was when we
no, it was Monday night.
Okay.
It was Monday night. Because I remember being like, interesting. Interesting timing.
Yes, and we had a whole side chat going on. Like, I wonder which one this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Props to you. You got it right.
I'm on heater right now.
He's on a heater, folks. So in case you're out of the loop, Three Rivers has fired Jonathan Abladejo, making the move after a rather brutal home series against Quebec. They replace him with Down East Bird Dogs bench coach TJ White. He gets the opportunity now to manage here. I know the folk down East are not thrilled that they lost him. Very popular down there, so he's a hole to fill, but very happy he's getting the opportunity. And yeah, TJ seems to be a great guy, great personality. And he does come from the Quebec vein, so he's familiar with La Provence. He's been around winning, obviously. If you play for Quebec just about any time in their history, you're familiar with winning. And I'm curious to see how he builds out a team. It's going to be kind of tough to judge much here. He's going to get about, 80 or so games. So practically speaking, a full season, but no off season. So that's really where the struggle is. My biggest concern here, and then I'll throw it to you for takes, and then I guess after that we'll talk a little bit about Abladejo himself and the job he did. But I'm only concerned about TJ taking this job in the sense of I don't know what the situation around it is, and I want to make sure the conditions to succeed are present.
Okay, as for the situation, I think the situation isn't great, clearly, but I think there's a lot to be done with Travier, right? And they have a new owner involved. That I think they're doing a lot of assessing what they have. I think they, you don't want to rush your manager out. That's not what you're looking to do as a new owner. You're not trying to change managers in the off season for the most part, first off season. You have a lot of work to do on that ballpark, in my opinion. It needs some upgrades. I'm sure that's kind of where their focus is. The read I've been getting is it was not, the issues of Abladejo. Yes, it hurts to not be winning. And I think also to be putting a not very entertaining product on the field, which makes it hard to sell tickets. I think it was just a very inefficient team, if that makes sense. Like the way they handle there are some people, you shouldn't be as a manager or a baseball ops person basing all of your moves and decisions around what makes the most sense for ownership and the bottom line. But you should be making some decisions with that in mind, or you should be making all decisions with an eye on the impact it's having, because you can ignore that completely and say like, look, this is going to suck. We're going to have to eat this. But you have to keep that in mind. Like, okay, I owe you one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to maybe eat some money somewhere else to kind of make that up to your owner, especially when it's a lower budget organization. On the other side, you can't just be, throwing no money out there, because that's all you think about is the budget now. I felt, and their managers rather, who are really, really good at that and having an understanding and a feel for what needs to happen when, stay in good graces. I think there was a lot of moves being made. This is just from the outside looking in, looking at the transaction log, talking to a couple people. It felt like it was just putting financial and logistical pressure that was not necessary for this situation. And very quickly, the new owners were like, okay. And I think it was a little disorganized behind the scenes. And I just think that was kind of the situation. Also, I mean, I think there were, in my opinion, from what I've seen, probably paying some guys too much that shouldn't be getting paid that much. So that's going to be something TJ's got to clean up a little bit. But as for the situation moving forward, I do think the rules are simple. Don't make a mess. Bring a winning culture and a good vibe, which he's done. Down East has been looking pretty solid at times. Quebec track record, obviously. I think TJ has a good bit of wiggle room here, and he's not going to be like expected to succeed or do a lot on his own. And I think he has a lot of connections already in the league and connections to people who can come in and help him out as he builds this into his own thing moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. He was one of the hires that we were really big on when Down East made it. So I think he's really living up to that potential right now. So I'm curious to see how it fully plays out there. But yeah, I think you make a lot of good points there with the behind the scenes stuff. And that is an organization that really has never been well ran. If I could say it. It's just always been kind of like falling its way forward and finding a way. So it would be nice for them to actually have some organizational structure and have everything working itself out. And if the rumors around expansion in La Provence do bear out to be true, you need Three Rivers to have their act together. You really, really do. Because if they don't, then everything else gets thrown to flux. But it is a situation.
And the thing, too, is I've said before, you can be a bad team, by the way. You just need to be watchable. You need to be entertaining. And I think two things happened here. I think, so Trois Rivières opened their season with a massive road trip. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 series in a row.
Par for the course for a lot of them. Yeah.
And that's fine. But it's worth noting that that first homestand, was 6 games with Brockton, 3 games with Brockton, 3 games with Quebec. They're still at home right now, but they made the decision after the Quebec series, was, their first look at what this was. One, the team got smacked. They didn't win a game. They were outscored by like 30 runs almost, in those 6 games. And the team didn't look good. And I think also it should not be understated. This was the first look at, the season's running now. You're seeing the player, how the clubhouse is running, how the manager's office is running, and getting a feel. You can very quickly walk in as somebody who has covered the game a lot and has worked around it. You can walk into a clubhouse and know that something ain't right here. There's a million ways that a clubhouse can feel right, but when it feels wrong. And a lot of the times it does come back to a manager. So I'm interested to see if that was it was legit. I also wouldn't be surprised if this decision was made mid-weekend, from what I hear. Yeah, I think they saw what they had, because finding TJ that quickly is no. I was going
to say, you don't make a decision to fire him the next day.
Process. That's a multi-day process. Yeah,
I wouldn't even be stunned, and I don't know. I'm just speculating. If they saw game 1 against Quebec, said this ain't it, this just cements everything we know, made the call, said, hey, we'd like to talk to you, had the interview, and then Said, all right, we'll offer it to you.
I think it was Brockton. I think it was losing 8-6, 8-1, 13-7 to Brockton. I think that had to be it.
That was the moment where they said, enough of this.
Yeah, that's enough. And again, I think there was probably some behind the scenes too. I am curious how TJ got to Corbier, only for the reason of I do wonder if it at least crossed his mind just hopping on the bus with Ottawa as they left down east. I'm just curious. It'd be funny. That'd be a fun vibe.
Look, I know there's a flight master in the Frontier League that works wonders and probably chartered a flight from Kingston directly to Trois-Rivières.
I'm sure that is exactly private for TJ. The glamour
of course. Probably one of those net jets would be my assumption here. Powered by Ghost, no doubt.
I will say, TJ is a guy who took a lot of time to talk to me while I was at the tryout, and he was very nice. He was no footage of this. And there wasn't much footage. I was talking. I think he's in the background of one of the shots, like talking to me. But yeah, he was very cool with everybody. He seemed, just from the interactions I had and watching him have interactions with guys who had no shot at making it. Like I could see him being nice to me. Well, I could see him being nice to me because, like, I cover the league. I could, but he was giving time and attention and conversation to dudes who, like, I was like, what are we doing? And he was very patient. I was like, you can work a room. Like I get it. And I already went on the rant once. It's so funny that these are the people involved, because I already went on the rant once, like 2 weeks ago, about how Trois-Rivières, the biggest red flag. I already had concerns. I was already interested. I wanted to learn more about the behind the scenes. And they're one of like two or three managers I didn't talk to, or coaching staffs I didn't talk to while I was there. And it was not because, they were talking to other people, or whatever. They were talking to themselves. I was like, and I was beside myself. So I was like, you're historically the worst team. You don't think it is wise to be taking this opportunity to be talking to people and making connections and greasing the wheels for future moves and learning a thing or two? Like, brother, what are we doing? I won't go on the whole rant again, because I'm sure it wasn't 100% fair to him. I don't know the whole thing that they were up to. I don't know what they had going on, but my vibe was like, I don't see a world where I let that opportunity slip if I'm a manager in that situation, to not be talking to everybody. And it's like, they talk to them other times. Bro, everyone's in one spot for one time other than the All-Star game. Like,
network, go network,
dude. And I've had, and the only reason I bring it up is I know to look for that now, because another manager from another league was like, I knew that this other manager was cooked when we were at a batting cage together for an hour, standing there at the Shell watching guys hit. And he didn't say a word. And I was like, wow, that guy is he's in trouble. Like, he's done. So yeah, I don't know. That was why I thought to look for it. It's not completely, pulling out of my ass. It's just that it hit me. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. It's so interesting that the person who went out of their way to be really outgoing and talking to everybody, and the person who was like almost out of their way, not talking to people, are the two people involved here.
Yeah.
Also, the entire league. So are we even going to mention the fact that they always have a West Coast division? What are we doing?
They're not important enough to mention.
Fair.
We got to go to Staten Island for the last topic of the week here. We'll try to keep it relatively brief.
Yeah. What else is there to say?
Yeah. So Carlos Mirabal, a month into his first season as manager, is no longer managing the team. It appears they're going to be running a co-manager setup with an advisor thing. It really is a by committee setup here for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks here. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. That team is truly a dead man walking at this point, whether future or just for the year. I heard various things about Carlos, from nice guy, no heart, to just was in over his head, to got a really bad shake to start the year. And I suppose to a degree, all of that's true. He was not put in a position to succeed. Let's get that straight off the hop. You get hired in February when the season starts in April. You had no shot to begin with. That being said, you should never be this bad.
Yeah.
It just is wholly unacceptable.
I mean, they're currently down 15-2 to Long Island in the 6th. Sorry, it's the 7th. Though, also, Lancaster's up 10-1 against Tony right now. So sheesh.
Right.
But yeah, man, 15 runs on 14 hits, which means presumably they are just absolutely putting on a clinic when it comes to bad pitching, which I mean is not new. I would tell you, they've managed, as per the usual, 10 walks in 7 innings or 6 innings of pitching, 10 walks from the Staten Island staff. At this point, can't even blame them. I mean, what are you going to do? Also, 3 errors from the defense. Good God, boys, somebody keep their head down on it. And because the other thing that this is not going to help when you are a struggling attendance organization. Having every game be a disaster is not going to help bring people in. We talked about that one kid school game where it was where they made 8 errors or whatever. I mean, I just don't.
That's the thing. They're an embarrassment on the field right now, and when you're not able to field a team that is at least respectable, and you have a run differential by mid-May that's approaching minus 100, and now in the beginning of June, that's closing in on 150, 200. Yeah. That's insanity. They're on pace to genuinely be the worst non-travel team.
They're going to be worse than some travel teams at this rate.
Yeah, this is bad, man. So the firing again, I hate to say things are justified or not justified because you can be bad, but you can't be this bad. And the only thing that gives me pause if we're going all in on him, it's just what a shit setup he had to work with here. And I just don't believe ownership's fully committed in this at anymore. So they're not throwing any lifelines. They're throwing cinder blocks.
I'm not going to sit here and say Mirabal shouldn't get a second chance somewhere. Maybe the bench first. Prove it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he did anything. That's how bad an organization Staten Island is now. He just went whatever that record just was. I already don't have it in front of me because it hurt to look at. He did that. And I'm still I don't think he doesn't deserve a second chance. I'll run him back again. I just don't know what he was supposed
for him, though.
do. What was he supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a tough one for him, though, because he's probably out in Baseball United, being that the Hormuz Strait just shut that thing down.
I know, right? So he's going to need a gig. I mean, honestly, let's also don't forget Staten Island hired him late as anything. I mean, every other organization was pretty locked in. That's
so everybody brought their guys back. Mm-hmm. Anyone that was decent that was a free agent was picked up. Mm-hmm. You can't even get the soon-to-be college free agents in there, which is a real that's a real crapshoot for the Atlantic League. I don't even love betting on that in the Frontier, but at least you can kind of get away with it there. But over in the Atlantic, no way in hell that's going to work. But you don't have those yet. You won't have them until right around now, pretty much. And where are you going to go with everything else? And given the state of Staten Island, they're not paying for visas. So you can't even get guys from Mexico or the Dominican or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very tough situation to be in. There's no way you could roster build. I do agree. I think he could almost be, I don't want to put him in the Lamar Rogers grouping because I think Lamar's a different situation, but both guys are in the category of I'm not against giving them another shot, but I do want them to, go somewhere and learn how to do this and be in a situation and a culture of success so that when you do get the next opportunity, you are ready for it. You can take full advantage of it. Yeah,
I agree. I think, it's hard to even wrap your head around how bad it got. Yes, the situation is bad. Sorry, I'm already moving back to the standings, so I can't take my eyes off it. It is really, I don't know what he was supposed to do. I think his max, if you asked me when he got hired, what I think his high end for the season would have been 40 wins, which is still 80 losses. If he won a third of his games, that would have gone well. On average, if he just managed to not get swept every series, that's where he would have been. I don't know. Remarkably, he only did a little bit worse than that. But boy, is it bad. It is hard to wrap your head around. Charleston is a disaster. Nobody talks about. Charleston's 12-26 right now, and their run differential is over 100 runs better. And like that's only 5 games of winning and losing difference. If you show up to a Staten Island Fairy Hawks game, any of them, on average, you saw them lose by 5 runs. And it's going to get worse because they're getting smacked in the teeth tonight.
It's a tough situation here, all untold here. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think guys like Drew Maggi, who's going to be one of the part half of the two-headed monster trying to run this thing, is going to be any better. Honestly, it makes it look worse. Now you have a gong show in the dugout. You're co-managing this? What are we doing? Name one. Pick one guy, and that's your manager.
I think they're bringing somebody in.
This got to be a temporary setup here because I don't know.
They wouldn't have arranged this for that. Yeah, I agree.
But even still, though, you're going to sit here and tell me with a straight face that you can't just find one guy to hold it down for a week or two while you make the decision?
For real. Not wrong. I might have one. Hold on. I might have an insight to put in here real quick.
Okay.
Through Maggie, right?
Because I'd like to wrap in the next 10 minutes.
You know what I think it is?
10.
You know what I think it is? I think Drew Maggie might have. Hold on. Is this? Yeah. I think Drew Maggie might have just had a surgery, actually. So that might be the reason for the co-managing arrangement. So maybe that's it. Maybe because they knew maybe they want Drew to be the guy, but they know Drew is bad timing wise about to be getting a surgery and be gone for like a week or whatever. So they have to like have a manager, whatever. So maybe that's it. But, it'll be good, Drew. Hope that's going okay.
Hope it's going better than the season.
Honest to God. Yeah. I mean, he said he's already thanking that doctor. So I feel like it went well.
That's good. But yeah, I don't know how much more there is to say that isn't just going in a circle. Yeah. Because it's a bad situation over there. But
next week we'll get a little more in depth on all of the leagues, including the American that kind of got shafted this episode. But we'll take a walk back through. By then we'll really have a good idea what we got going on because we'll be
exactly. And honestly,
plus weeks in.
That's the way I'd like to do this too, because then we'll have a month of work from everybody. Essentially, minus Pioneer, but so we'll be able to have an in-depth conversation and it'll work out really well. So, that's going to just about do it for us for the week. I don't know exactly how long this is going to be because I don't know the length of the interview quite offhand here, but, it was a good week. I think we did get a little bit different than we normally would, but I think it was enjoyable all the same. So, you know the drill. Do your thing.
Yeah. Instead of just doing my normal, hey, it's Indie Ball Nation on whatever, because there's the promo, I think people have stopped listening when I say that. So what I'm going to do is I'm bringing show and tell. So here's the quick show and tell for the week. We just passed the 31st anniversary of this. May 22nd, 1995. There was a brawl between the Durham Bulls and Winston-Salem Dash. Unfortunately, it did take place on strikeout domestic violence night, so that's a bad look. The brawl began after Durham's John Knott was hit by a pitch from Jason Kummerfelt and purged the mound with 2 out in the bottom of the 3rd. They had it coming, Knott said. I could tell that the guy intentionally threw at Danny McGee in the 1st inning. Warthog pitcher Glenn Cullup, who wasn't even playing the game, was kicked in the head and taken to Durham Regional Hospital with a concussion, broken jaw, and 5 missing teeth. Winston-Salem won the infamous contest 10-8. The president of the Carolina League will hand down a combined total of 124 days of suspensions, including every player in uniform. And your Indie Ball connection here, Johnny Knott, he went on to, after playing for Durham this season, went to Fargo Moorhead in the, at the time, Northern League, played there for 4 seasons, and then ended his career with a stint with Atlantic City, and then back to St. Paul in the Northern League. And then Jason Kummerfelt, who said they had it coming, right? I think it was him who said that. No, Knott said that. Love that for him. Kummerfelt, I believe, went on his own little Indie Ball adventure, playing for Billings and Charleston before they were Indie Ball. And then I think he did end up, in fact, in Indie Ball with Duluth, hanging out in the Northern League as well. So maybe they had a reunion. Show and tell.
Happy you're happy.
Just making it my own segment.
Wouldn't be the weirdest thing to happen here. I really don't have control of my own show. Indie Ball Pod on Twitter, Indie Ball forever else. That's going to do it for the week for us. Another interview next week and deep diving at least 3 leagues. Till next time, don't forget to play ball.